Good evening, everyone.
Yes,
Everyone can find a seat. All right, we're going to get started. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Kristen O'Kane, and I'm with the City of Palo Alto Community Services Department. Thank you. We never get that response in here. So tonight we're here for our second community meeting for the Cubberley Master Plan. Just a show of hands, who was here for the first meeting? Amazing. Thank you for coming back, and thank you for those of you who are coming for the first time. We really appreciate your input and your ideas and thoughts on this amazing project that we're super excited about. We're going to do a presentation in a moment, but I just wanted to say again, appreciate you being here and look forward to engaging with each other and having great conversations with each other to reimagine what this amazing space could be. So I'm going to turn it over to George with Concordia and we will get started. Thank you.
thank you so much, and welcome again, and thank you all so much for taking time out of your day to come here and share all of your ideas. It is so incredibly important, and we are so very grateful for you to create that time to come here tonight. As Kristen said, I'm George Silvertooth. I'm with Concordia. We are an architecture, planning, and community engagement firm in New Orleans. So you will be hearing a lot of y'alls from me tonight. So that's just why. We were a part of the 2019 Cubberley Master Plan as well. So we are so excited to be back here again and really take this to the next step to turn this into a reality. So I'm going to go over our agenda tonight, if my clicker works. If not, I'll do this. Sorry, y'all. Okay. Hold, please. Right, so we're going to go over our agenda. So right now we're in the introduction space. We're going to do a brief presentation. I'm going to go over just kind of a overarching project overview. I'm going to go over some of the results from the first meeting in March. And then I'm going to turn it over to my fellow Concordian, Elizabeth, to go over the 3 concept designs that we have for you tonight. And then we're going to turn it over to y'all and hear all of your ideas and get some feedback on all of that. But first of all, we have some housekeeping. Everybody should have a name tag on, hopefully so. At each table, we also have these bright orange stickers. If you don't want your photo shared or published in any way, we ask that you put that orange sticker on your name tag. We'll be taking some photos later of people interacting with the activity. But if we see that orange sticker later on, we'll be sure not to share it. There's one on each one after the presentation. If maybe more than one person needs that at your table host will just raise their hand and we'll get you one of those stickers later. So another housekeeping thing, we ask a few things. We want this meeting to be very informative and get a lot of good ideas. And that means we all have to have kind of an open heart, open mind. So we ask that you engage fully with your group, have the courage to share bold ideas, be open-minded to possibility and opportunity, listen to all voices, even if those conflict with your own, make room for everyone to be heard, and share any questions you have on your after-action review, which is a form we'll get to at the end of the meeting. So that's the housekeeping. So now I'm going to go over a brief project background. This will be kind of similar information if you attended the first meeting, but it's good for a refresher. And if it's your first time, this will be very helpful for you to understand. So we are talking today about the 2025 Cubberley project. So this is the land that is in the scope of the 2025 project. So the blue and the yellow right now. The fields in the back and the parking lot in the back, the school, all of the stuff that's out of the blue and yellow is just going to remain the same. So we're not touching that. That is not part of the scope. That will stay the same. The blue is currently land that the city owns. What's in the yellow is currently land that the school district owns. In the future, the idea is that the city will buy the land that the school district currently owns, so they'll own all of it. So we're planning with all of these in mind as one site. So far, like I mentioned, in 2019, we did a version of this master plan that included the school district adding a school. So we were tasked with fitting a community center and a school on the same site. However, now we're just focusing on just a community center. But there were a lot of really amazing, useful ideas, research, all of the community engagement we did for that process generated a lot of amazing ideas that we are taking with us. So this is just to say, we're not starting from square one. In fact, in the first meeting, we brought a lot of the programming ideas that we had developed in that first master plan. So that's what we did in March. We worked on the vision statement, programming, and placemaking. So then we're taking the next step today, and we're going to focus on 3 concepts that came out of all of that information. And then in September, we're going to take the 3 and make them into one, combine them all into one awesome singular idea, and we'll get y'all's feedback on that. And then we'll have our final Cubberley Community Center project. A couple more important dates to note. March of next year, that's when the finalized plan will go to City Council for approval. And then in November of 2026 is when the bond measure will go up for a vote to assist with the funding for this Cubberley Center. So we really believe in this iterative process that we want to make sure that we don't just come to you with a final plan. So that's why we started in 2019, really, but came back in March. We're here today, and we're going to come back another time in September. But focusing on today, meeting 2 goals are we're going to review these 3 concept designs, discuss the aspects of each of the ones that we think are really great, really successful, and maybe the ones that we should leave behind. And then we're also going to review and confirm how that aligns with the project goals. So I briefly want to touch upon what happened in meeting 1, just in case y'all weren't there. We also have the full meeting summary online. If you want a little bit more in depth, we also have all of the raw data that we gathered in the appendix on that online on the city's site. But we figured it would be a good idea to go over it a little bit today. So the first thing we did was a vision statement was created with the help of the city council. So we brought this vision statement to the community in an activity and asked, all right, what of this feels right? What should be updated? What words should be tweaked to make sure that this vision statement really reflects the community and the future Cubberley project? So pretty minimal changes. We took out a few words, activities, amenities, and offerings, but a couple of words that we really heard reiterated in that activity was making sure that it's adaptable and connections really was repeated throughout all the tables. So this updated vision statement is as follows. Cubberley will be a vibrant, beloved, and adaptable destination that promotes learning, connections, joy, and well-being, where all cultures and generations belong. So this statement is really kind of our guiding light, our North Star as we get through this project. The second activity focused on programs and adjacencies. So what should be at this future Cubberley? We started with a list that we developed that of all the programs that were already here and all of the programs that were added in the 2019 plan. So it was a long list, and we asked people to write down what indoor programs they would like to see here and what outdoor programs they would like to see here. So we asked everybody to write those on some squares. And here is just kind of a snapshot from that first meeting. So the most commonly mentioned one, performance space, followed by dance class, art studio, and arts classes. So this is about our top 12. We had over 70 different program ideas. And so what we do with this is we just make sure that, we need to have the space for all of these programs. We need to have this functionality that some of these things can fit in there. For the outdoor programs, the top one was open green space. A lot of the open space right now, I would call it more cement space as opposed to green space. So seeing how we can maybe add some of that. Playground was second, amphitheater. I'll also call out tennis courts, pick a lot of different kinds of courts. And so another thing I want to say is, even though this is a hierarchy of how many things were mentioned, there's a lot of ways to combine a lot of these ideas. A gym, wellness center, tennis courts can be flexible. So that's really, how we're using this information. After we asked people to write down their favorite programs, we asked the community to write down indoor programs on one square if they felt like they could maybe share space, be in the same building. Same thing for outdoor programs. What outdoor programs can share some space? And then as you can see in this activity sheet, we also asked everybody to kind of lay it out on a grid so that we could figure out what buildings should be next to each other, what programs should be next to each other. So a couple of takeaways that I'd like to call out is we saw about an average of 3 programs per indoor square. So what that means to us, okay, so people are willing to kind of be in the same building, share space, that sort of idea. And then also grouping similar programs together, maybe art classes, art studios, visual arts, makerspace. Maybe those should be either sharing a building or they should at least be near each other. Performance space, dance classes, how close are those to the performance spaces, the rehearsal spaces? If there's loud programming, maybe it should be further away from a yoga studio where they want peace and quiet, that idea. We also heard a few various green space layouts, but a few rows to the top. One common one was like green space all on one side, buildings on another side. But we think the most common one we heard was kind of like this, where there was a bunch of different green spaces kind of scattered throughout, almost like courtyards of various sizes. So that is all the input we got from meeting 1, kind of very briefly summarized. But that's not all we have to take into account. There's a lot of engineers and city departments, utilities, maintenance. So I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth, and she's going to kind of walk you through a site overview of what are we dealing with, and then also walk you through the 3 concepts that we developed with your input and with what we heard from city staff and engineers. Elizabeth.
Sure. All right. Okay, so as George said, in the next few slides, we're going to talk about what we have to work with, what we're up against, what the site parameters are, and what are the existing conditions. Okay, so in terms of the building facilities, what we have to work with is the existing buildings. So all of the buildings were built in either 1945, 1955, or 1968. This means that they were all originally constructed before things like the Americans with Disabilities Act. There have been subsequent code updates, and there's also been alterations for change of use from the original use of the building, which was the high school. Shout out to all the Cubberley alumni here, to the community center. There was a buildings facilities report done by the city of Palo Alto in the years starting in 2022 to 24. And basically the facilities report says that within 3 years, all of the buildings are going to be nearing the end of their serviceable life. And within 10 and 20 years, the rest of the buildings will, all of the buildings will reach the actual end of their serviceable life. Amongst the code deficiencies, there's a structural and seismic code, the Americans with Disabilities Act, as previously mentioned. There's also energy code and fire safety codes that are slightly deficient, or just deficient, I'll say. And then there's also maintenance and facilities efficiencies. The facilities engineers have stated that mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and sustainability systems are not up to par. We've also heard previously that community members love the services and programs and uses at Cubberley, but community members have not expressed that they love the buildings themselves. We also know that preserving green space and trees is very important to community members as well. The map on the left shows a map of the, okay, can you all hear me now? Okay, thank you. Okay, is this better? Can you all hear me now? Okay, thank you. Okay. So we also know that preserving green space and trees is important to community members. On the left is a map of the existing and protected trees. Each concept design that we'll be showing shows these protected and beloved trees absolutely staying exactly where they are. That's not to say that they're the only trees that are going to be on the site, but those are the ones that we know exactly where they're going to be and that they're definitely staying. So the top image shows the existing footprint of the site. It's just the boundaries of the site. if the existing breakdown of the site was depicted as a bar graph, it would be that top bar shown. And if the proposed design was shown as a bar graph, you can see that we are now expanding all of the usable areas of the site in all of the 3 categories. We get more outdoor space, more indoor space, and more capacity for parking. Outdoor spaces include things like planting, nature, athletic and recreational outdoor space. Interior spaces include things like a center for recreation, wellness, and fitness. It includes a theater. It includes programming space for things like arts and wellness and culture, all of those existing things that people love about Cubberley. And the gray area depicts the section that's needed for parking. Because that second bar is bigger than the first bar, it's important to note that there are ways that we're addressing expanding the usable area of the space without expanding the footprint. That's to build up or to build down. And we'll see that in previous slides. Oh, next slides. And this is just depicting the same information in a different format. So this is showing those 3 categories of spaces in a more or less proportional rectangle placed on top of the site. And that's really to show the impact of the square footage needed on the existing site. All 3 concepts have comparable amounts of all of these spaces. It's important to note that all concepts have about the same amount of outdoor space. And we wanted to specifically note the impact of parking on the site. So we've recognized that we want to definitely balance the actual parking need with the impact on the site. So here we're showing 2 different strategies for parking. The first one is a partially underground parking, and the second is structured parking, like a parking garage. We've learned from the safety action plan that community members in Palo Alto want to prioritize bike, pedestrian, and transit options, and they want to lessen the impact of parking in vehicles. So we're exploring innovative parking solutions. So for underground parking, we're exploring options to have it partially underground instead of fully underground. That would mean instead of digging down 14 feet, maybe you just dig down 6 or 7 feet. That would reduce the cost and complexity, and you can still put things like outdoor space and buildings on top of the partially underground parking. And for structured parking, an innovative solution that we are exploring is to use flat floors instead of sloped floors. And this allows in the future, if there's less need for vehicular modes of transportation, then that portion of the parking garage can be turned into programmable space. This is an option that Palo Alto is currently exploring in other locations as well. Okay, so now with all of that background, we're going to show y'all the 3 concept designs. And for each design concept, we'll review consistent design features like the building layouts, including heights, outdoor space and promenades. We'll explore pedestrian and bike circulation as well as vehicular circulation. The designs that you will see in the next slides reflect a master planning scope and a master planning level of scope and don't have to be built all at one time. Construction phasing helps to ensure the continuity of a level of services. And phasing also allows for additional funding sources beyond the ballot supported bond, such as public-private partnerships, grants, and impact fees, etc. So for each design, there are also 3 alternates. And the reason for the alternates is because we hear that cost accountability is really important. We have a cost estimator on the team as an integral part of the team. And we're exploring the cost benefits of these 3 alternatives for each concept design. The first alternate is for new construction. So anywhere where you see like a white shape, that indicates a building that's new construction. It also includes partially underground parking, which is shown in a dotted line. And there will always be different building blocks for different buildings. There's a larger white shape, a larger rectangle that denotes a center for recreation, wellness, and fitness. And then you'll see in all of the plans, there's a skinnier set of linear buildings. Those buildings are shown at a 70-foot wide range. That happens to be a little bit of a magic number for optimizing flexibility of building space. So those longer, skinnier buildings denote places that can allow for multiple and flexible uses, like things like arts, education, wellness, performing arts, all of the things that Cubberley already has. So I would like to also note that all of the plans show an increase in square footage for programs and activities that are beloved in Cubberley. And in meeting number 3 coming up, the next meeting in September, we will be showing where different kinds of space are going. And now we're just focusing on the massing design and their relationships. So stay tuned to the next meeting for those program conversations. The second alternate shows partial renovation. Our structural engineers, we have structural engineers on board, and we've been working out which buildings have the most opportunity for successful renovation. And those you'll see in alternate 2 for each concept design, shown in tan. That alternate also features partially underground parking. And then the third alternate for each concept design shows a structured parking. So you'll see that in each of the plans in that darker gray. Okay, so moving along to the first concept design. This is the diagonal scheme. The defining feature of that diagonal scheme is that diagonal promenade. It connects the existing bike route from Nelson Drive and allows that bike and pedestrian route to flow down through the site and connect to the middle fields bike and pedestrian path. It would not be just a bike path. It would then become a featured design in this concept design. The buildings enhance that diagonal, and you can see that Center for Recreation, Wellness, and Fitness in the upper right, and the buildings form large green spaces. There's 3 large outdoor spaces. The upper right is a recreational and athletic outdoor space, and there's 2 other large flexible multi-use outdoor spaces that are formed within the buildings. Oh, one other thing to mention is the vehicular circulation. In this plan, you can see the vehicular circulation really hugging the edges of the site. Those are existing driveways, and you'll see on each scheme a similar area where we're showing 2 U-shaped mobility hubs. And I'll go over in a few slides what mobility hubs are. So here you can see that scheme, that diagonal scheme in 3 dimensions. And I would like to point out that there's a lot of there's a lot of information about massing here. So in general, we're trying to keep each concept design having the one story or the shorter buildings fronting Middlefield in relationship to the one story buildings across the street, the residential buildings across the street. And then you can see the two-story buildings are consistently towards the back. That center for recreation, wellness and fitness, you can see that mass is a little bit taller because the ceilings on that facility need to be a little taller. And in the second alternate, you can see the renovation with those renovated buildings in tan. And then that third alternate, you can see the above ground parking. And we're showing this to show you the impact on the site of structured parking as opposed to underground parking or partially underground parking. So this is the second scheme. It's the grid scheme. And the defining feature is a set of parallel and perpendicular promenades, which become the featured outdoor spaces. They double as bike and pedestrian paths. And this scheme features 3 smaller green spaces and 1 enclosed courtyard. The bike and pedestrian path still definitely connects to Nelson Drive and Middlefield just by those orthogonal turns. And alternate 1, the new construction, again, the shorter buildings towards Middlefield, the taller buildings towards the back of the site and the fields. The renovation scheme, again, the renovated buildings shown in tan. And then the impact of the structured parking, again, on the upper left side of the site. Then the last scheme, concept 3, is the linear scheme. Its distinctive feature is that the buildings create a large grand promenade in the center of the site. It's a generous place for outdoor activities. Again, there's 3 large outdoor spaces. And again, there's that 4th recreation and athletic outdoor space at the top right. The bike flow is perpendicular with those orthogonal turns still connecting Nelson Drive to Middlefield Road. Okay. And that's the depiction of it as the first alternate, new construction. Here's alternate 2 showing it with the renovation in the tan. And then alternate 3 showing structured parking, that 4-story parking garage in the upper left. Okay, I know that was a lot of information, so here's your cheat sheet slide. Again, just a quick summary of those 3 design options. That first is the diagonal layout that with the featured diagonal bike flow from Nelson to Middlefield Road. The second is that grid layout with more but smaller outdoor spaces. And the third design option features that really grand central outdoor space. We talked about a few things that we'd like to just review a little bit. So in the coming slides will be a few examples of things that we've talked about in the schemes. The first was that mobility hub. I mentioned it when we were talking about vehicular circulation and those little U-shaped things off of the roads. So a mobility hub is just a lot more than just pick up and drop off. It's really meant to support all sorts of modes of transportation, like public transit, shuttles, ride shares, bikes, pedestrians. It can also offer things like integrated services for EV vehicles, for bike sharing, for community arts, planting, stormwater management. So think of a mobility hub as so much more than just getting dropped off in a car. Let's see. And then we're showing open space on the concept plans, but we haven't finalized, we haven't pinpointed specific uses for each of those outdoor spaces. So anytime you see something labeled outdoor space or promenade, these spaces can all accommodate different activities and uses. A lot of those uses we've gathered from your ideas from meeting number 1. So those things can be green space, like community gardens, habitat plantings, trees that you can gather under. They can be things like sports and recreational use, like tennis courts, multi-use courts and fields, a walking and biking path. They can support bike services, etc. They can also be things that support educational use, such as signage, educational signage, accessible play, sensory and tactile play. And then open space can also support things like, let me just get my notes. We also heard that multi-generational spaces are really important. So multi-generational play, informal lounges, accessible exercise trails are all things that these spaces can support. And then the last category of outdoor space is arts. We want to make sure that outdoor space supports things like an amphitheater for performing arts, integrated public art, etc. Okay, and I'll turn it over to George for active questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. So that was a lot of information, I know, and it's also, it's very conceptual, so it's very high level. So I just want to reiterate a couple of things before we dive into this, is that, meeting 1, we have a lot of program ideas. And today we're really focusing on the layout. And then this next 3rd meeting in September, we're going to bring it all together. I also want to reiterate something that Elizabeth mentioned. The square footage for all of this is more than the square footage, indoor square footage, that currently exists. So everything that exists here now and then some can happen at the future site. Also, the green space has been expanded. And while you saw some green spaces, maybe there's more but smaller ones or bigger ones, all of the green spaces are very, very similar on all the concept design. So all of them, they don't really give you more or less green space unless you do the above ground parking, and that takes away a little bit. So as you're looking at these, I just wanted you to kind of keep that in mind as we're going through. So first things first, you have the concept designs that she just reviewed on your sheet. The new construction is at the top. You have the overhead plan view. You also have the 3D view. Underneath that, you have the above ground parking option and the renovated building options. It's the same 3 renovated buildings. It's the parking towers in the exact same spot for each one of those. So you kind of have 9 in total, but three different categories. So what we're asking you to do today is not pick your favorite. We want to kind of Frankenstein all 3 of these together into one super concept. So maybe you like the diagonal promenade. Maybe you like the diagonal promenade, but you also really like the big circular one. What if we could make the diagonal promenade as big and grand as the one that's on concept 3 in the linear? So that's kind of the idea that we're trying to do here. So at your table, you have your activity sheet. You also have 9 red stickers and 9 green stickers. What we're asking you to do is, between all 3 of these concepts, or all 9, if you count the parking and renovation, what aspects do you want to keep and what aspects do you want to leave behind? So using the green stickers, you will mark across any of the concepts which of those aspects you want to keep. With the red stickers, those are the ones that you want to leave behind. There's no rules for where you put the stickers. We gave you 9, so you could do 3 green, 3 green, 3 green on each concept, 3 red, 3 red, 3 red, 3 red. Or you can do, if you like concept 2, all the aspects from concept 2, you could put the green all over that place. There's no rules. You also don't have to use all 9 stickers of each color. So we really want you to just figure out what are those highlights and what are those things that we should get out of there for the next concept. So again, it's aspects. We're not looking for voting. We're looking for which of these that you really, really like. So for instance, maybe your group really likes the diagonal promenade, but this little triangle thing here, you might be a little worried about. Maybe there might be some bike traffic jams, or that feels a little weird or dangerous. Maybe you would throw the red sticker right there. Maybe you really like the wellness center structure here. That was great. Let's throw a green sticker there. Maybe you want the renovations. That sounds like a really good idea to you. You could throw that sticker in the renovated square. You definitely don't want above ground parking. That means you should put a red sticker there. So again, as well, like I said, as another example, let's say you like the diagonal promenade and you also like the big promenade in concept 3. How will you let us know that you want us to kind of combine those ideas? What you would do is put a green sticker in the diagonal promenade, put a green sticker on the linear promenade, and then elaborate below. So you have the 2 squares below each concept. That's where we want you to explain why you want to keep it, why you want us to get rid of it, why you want to leave it behind. So that would be a great spot to put down, love the diagonal, but would really like it if it was bigger, like in concept 3. Write that down on a Post-it note. You could stick it on there. You could write directly onto the sheet. But the key here is that you have to write it down, because otherwise we won't see it and we won't know that you had a really good idea. There's no wrong answers. I know there's probably a lot of questions. We have a lot of experts in the room here. So if you have questions, we're going to get going, but just raise your hand and your community fellows will help guide you through this, and we'll come over and answer as many questions as we can. All right, so we have about 30, 45 minutes to work on this. So let's get to work.